Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following. Indiana University's Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, presenting Security Matters with tips for improving online security in 3 minutes or less. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk, a teacher shortage. It's a problem many states are facing, including Indiana. Why are the numbers declining?
I thought maybe I would be happier doing something else because I would have less stress, less anxiety.
Ahead, a look at the potential reasons people aren't choosing education and how some state leaders are proposing turning things around. Forget the image that comes to mind when you think about the American Legion Hall or VFW.
That's the perception that we've ran into a lot, is this a lot of old white men drinking, smoking inside of a Legion post.
Leaders say that perception problem is hurting its membership. And universities have more time to decide on athlete benefits after officials declined to determine whether football players could unionize. These stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Across the country, school districts are struggling to find enough teachers to fill vacant positions. And here in Indiana, the situation is no different. To explain what Indiana's teacher shortage looks like and what the state is doing to address it is State Impact Indiana education reporter Claire McInerney.
Thanks, Joe. This panic around a teacher shortage in Indiana comes after a report from the Department of Education showed the number of new licenses issued each year dropped 63% between the 2009-2010 school year and the 2013-2014 school year. As you might expect, there are many potential reasons for the drop, and that could make finding a solution more challenging. When Columbus North High School English teacher Ryan Gunterman graduated college 12 years ago, he was sure of what he would do with his professional life: teach. But as his career progressed, Gunterman says the tone changed. State and national policies around accountability and testing meant he and his students were facing more pressure, and his priorities in the classroom had to change. Those changes started to wear on him.
I'm a big Colts fan. I'm not going to go to see a game in New England, the Patriots, wearing all my Colts stuff every single day as a thing of work, because I know I'm going to get harassed and just treated like garbage. You know, that's one thing when it's a sport and entertainment and meaningless. It's another thing when it's your profession and your passion.
Gunterman says he often has to choose between being a good husband and father and being a good teacher. He's considered making a career change, and hearing that fewer people are going into the profession.
This is no surprise. I mean, this is something that I'm actually somewhat surprised hasn't happened earlier. And I knew it was going to get to this point, and just from the simple response toward education and toward educators.
But changing demands on teachers is only part of the problem in Indiana. Since 2007, the number of teacher licenses issued to new teachers has dropped dramatically in the state, and less people are entering teacher preparation programs at the same time that more teachers are retiring. It's a perfect storm of circumstances leading to this current so-called shortage, and leaders across the state are trying to figure out how to address it. State Board of Education member Gordon Hendry maintains the issue is pay. He says teacher salaries aren't keeping up with the cost of getting a degree. He's proposing an incentive program for high-achieving high school students to study education when they go to college.
They would get 4 years of tuition-free education at one of our leading education schools, and subsequently would enter the teacher's profession for at least 4 years. So I see this as a way to increase the number of quality teachers in our Hoosier classrooms while also addressing the teacher shortage issue that's facing Indiana and other states.
Hendry says by covering tuition for prospective teachers, the return on investment for a potential teacher becomes more attractive. But he recognizes that only solves the front end of the problem of getting more teachers into the classroom. IU School of Education professor Keith Barton says the job of teaching has to get better if the goal is attracting more people into the profession.
people are not going to be so easily fooled that just the offer of some incentive is going to convince them to spend 4 years studying for a career that's not going to be a good one.
But how to make it more attractive is the hard part. Nobody can agree on how to get teachers better pay or require less of them, because a lot of accountability requirements come from the federal government. Gunterman says despite all of these factors, teaching is still his calling. He doesn't discourage young people from entering the profession, but says they should know exactly what the job entails.
Because it's so important, it cannot be something that you can be somewhat interested in. It needs to be something that you completely commit to, and you're also willing to take, in essence, the punishment that comes with it.
The legislature will address the issue of attracting and retaining more teachers during a study committee in September. Commissioner for Higher Education Teresa Lubbers has also weighed in on the subject and is taking a detailed look at subjects with a high need for teachers, like science, math, and special education, and how we can encourage more educators to teach in those areas.
Thank you very much, Claire. The National Labor Relations Board this week declined to rule on whether Northwestern University football players are employees and have the right to unionize. That decision slows down what many considered the inevitable path to paying student athletes. Sports Media Associate Professor Galen Clavio is here to discuss what the decision or lack of a decision means for universities in Indiana. Thanks for being here. Many colleges, though, and universities are already extending some perks and benefits, including paying these athletes, right?
Right, yeah, there's some money going to athletes now, particularly in the revenue sports. Cost of attendance monies, in some cases exceeding $4,000 or $5,000. I think Florida State is up to maybe $5,800 for out-of-state students. But it varies from school to school. I think there's some Pac-12 schools that are only about $1,000 or $2,000. So it is happening, though, and it's happening on a much broader level than I think we thought that it would happen. And frankly, that it's happening at all is something that most people wouldn't have predicted even 3-4 years ago.
Is this something, when I heard a year or so ago about Fred Glass at Indiana University talking about it, the Ethics or Student Bill of Rights?
Right.
Is that kind of that same thing?
It's in the same vein, yes. And look, I think a lot of this comes down to the original filing by the Northwestern players to try to form a union. And I think that college athletic directors, particularly in the Power 5 conferences, woke up a little bit and said, you know, if we don't get in front of this and start extending some benefits to college athletes, they're going to take that power away from us, Congresses or legislatures or the courts are, and they're going to make it so that we just have to pay them, you know, flat out, like it's going to be basically free agency for college athletes. So what we're seeing now is some incremental steps being taken by athletic departments to try to head that off and try to make it look like they're providing athletes with the compensation that they need.
Well, although I can hear some people now thinking, yeah, but they're getting free scholarships to play at the university, and then of course comes all those shoes and,
right.
and things like that. Isn't that enough? I mean, I guess where's the balance there?
Well, I think the balance comes in a couple of different forms. I mean, first of all, I've never looked at those things as free. I mean, that's compensation for playing what, in the case of football, is a very dangerous sport. And in most cases, whether it's basketball or baseball or whatever, these are sports that require a very high level of skill, and they're sports that universities are making tens, if not hundreds of $millions off of, depending on the school that you're looking at. So, you know, if you look at it from that perspective, there's a balance that has to be struck. And I think that 10, 15 years ago, the revenues weren't quite as high as they are now. Now the revenues are astronomical, whether it's, you know, network television money or Big Ten network money or what have you. That equation's changed. And I think all of this that we're seeing now is athletes and schools saying, okay, the equation has changed. We should probably do something about it.
Now, this case was before the National Labor Relations Board. If they aren't going to decide if students can unionize, then who is? I guess what's next?
Right.
You know?
The NLRB really didn't want to make a decision on this case. They, in their language, they acted like they wanted no part of making a determination on this, partially because Northwestern's a private school and the majority of schools in college sports are public, but also because I think they would prefer that Congress or the courts make that decision for them. And that's an understandable stance that they would take, because there are implications for this outside of just college athletics. I mean, you're talking about a whole host of potential unionized groups of people across the country that would fit a similar vein as college athletes. So I just think they didn't want to open that can of worms.
You mentioned courts. Are there any cases right now that we should kind of maybe be keeping an eye out
Oh,
for?
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the O'Bannon case is the one that's gotten a lot of attention, and that's the one that basically says that college athletes need to be paid for the use of their likeness. The bigger one is the Kessler case, and the Kessler case is being filed or has been filed by the same guy who basically caused NFL free agency as we know it today to happen. And that one is basically advocating for a completely open market for player services, which would entail college athletes being paid in many cases as if they were professionals. So that's the one I think that everybody's really interested in seeing what happens with.
We have 15 seconds. You care to venture a prediction on how this is all going to turn out really quick?
I think that at some point before this is all over, Congress will step in and do something, whether it's give colleges an antitrust exemption or just decide, you know what, this is not a fair labor system. We need to make some changes that are ensconced in law.
All right. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. And now for headlines, we go over to Barbara Brozier, who has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thanks, Joe. A chemical company in Terre Haute plans to shut down production from noon to midnight every day. There's a race at a nearby track that hosts competitions for young drivers. The decision comes after a sulfur dioxide gas leak at Hydrite sent 20 people at the track to the hospital last weekend. Fire department officials say winds carried sulfur dioxide toward the Terre Haute Quarter Midget Association track, where about 200 people were watching the races. Democratic Indiana Senator Joe Donnelly plans to vote in favor of the Iran nuclear agreement when the Senate gets a chance to weigh in on the measure next month. Donnelly says he still has questions about Iran's intentions in the nuclear agreement, but he wants to make sure the U.S. has exhausted all its options before taking any military action.
I have an obligation to make sure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, that Israel, our friend, and our other friends, and our nation are safe and are protected. And so if Iran heads toward a nuclear weapon, you know, at that point we have to make a decision as to whether or not to use military force, and we will use military force.
Indiana's other senator, Republican Dan Coates, is opposing the agreement. Support and opposition for the agreement crosses party lines. Former Indiana Democratic Senator Evan Bayh opposes the deal, while former Senator Richard Lugar, a Republican, supports it. Brown County and Monroe County are two of the latest communities to consider a needle exchange. The Monroe County Health Department declared a public health emergency Wednesday because of a 50% increase in hepatitis C cases since 2009. That virus can be transmitted through intravenous drug use. Brown County is still exploring whether it wants to move forward with the idea of a needle exchange. Public health officials say they are trying to identify the causes of the hepatitis C cases there before taking any further steps. Legislation passed this year allows counties to request permission from the Indiana State Department of Health to set up a needle exchange program. The law was enacted following an HIV outbreak in Scott County. Former Subway spokesman Jared Fogle faces between 5 and 12.5 years in prison for child pornography. Fogle pleaded guilty to charges of child pornography and sex with minors weeks after investigators raided his Zionsville home. After presenting his plea deal to the court, Fogle's attorney said the former Subway pitchman will pay $1.4 million in restitution to 14 girls identified as victims in the case.
Jared Fogle expects to go to prison. He will do his time. He expects to get well. He expects to continue to make amends to those people whose lives he has affected, both family and non-family members. And he at some point hopes to become once again a productive member of society.
The U.S. Attorney's Office says Fogle received and distributed child pornography and used his wealth and travels to have sex with underage girls in New York City hotels, although Subway is not responsible for any of Fogle's actions.
This is not the question of their involvement. This is a question of what he did and what he needs to be held accountable for.
Subway has ended its relationship with Fogle, who is now in home detention while he awaits sentencing. John Gregg is the sole Democrat in the race for governor after State Senator Karen Tallian dropped out this week. Tallian had a difficult time raising money for her campaign and had not gained many major endorsements from key Democratic supporters, such as union groups. Tallian got into the race to support what she called the progressive point of view. And in a statement this week, the state senator said she will continue to build on her decade of experience as a state senator, fighting to ensure equal rights, well-paying jobs, and quality education for all Hoosiers. State officials are beginning a process that could provide federal disaster relief to 29 counties that sustained damage from severe weather, including tornadoes and flooding in June and July. Officials from local governments, the Indiana Department of Homeland Security, and FEMA are conducting damage assessments in 29 counties this week. Based on those assessments, the state could request more federal aid for those counties. If approved, federal grants would pay up to 75% of expenses for damage to roads, bridges, and other public facilities, as well as for debris removal and rescue operations. Indiana University athletes' cream and crimson uniforms will continue to be made by sports apparel company Adidas. The 8-year deal totals $53 million. Adidas's partnership with the university dates back to 2004, though the company has provided uniforms for the university's soccer program since 1973. IU officials considered proposals from Nike and Under Armour, but decided Adidas was a natural partnership.
When you think of the iconic symbol of IU athletics, you think of the stripes. And Adidas, they're the stripes. So I think it works. It's a natural partnership.
The contract continues through 2024. The American Civil Liberties Union of Indiana filed a class action lawsuit challenging a law that took effect last month that prohibits sex offenders from entering schools to vote. The ACLU argues the new law, which clarifies sex offenders can vote via an absentee ballot, is unconstitutional.
Children are only allowed in school are only allowed in the polling place if they're accompanied by an adult voter. So this law really doesn't affect the safety of children in any way.
Indiana code does allow sex offenders to vote absentee. A former judge from Northwest Indiana is seeking the Democratic nomination for Attorney General. Lorenzo Arredondo was a Lake County Circuit Court judge for more than 3 decades. He was also the first Latino judge elected in the state of Indiana. Arredondo will seek to replace current Republican Attorney General Greg Zeller, who is stepping down to run for Indiana's 9th congressional district. As students return to college this week, they'll be hearing or seeing advertisements that inform them about Indiana's Lifeline law. The law allows underage Hoosiers to call the police without fear of getting into trouble for drinking if they see someone that is the victim of a crime or needs medical attention. During a press conference this week, parent Dawn Finbloom said the advertisements will prevent unnecessary deaths. Her son died of alcohol poisoning in 2012.
We have hope and faith for college students today. They're awesome. They're amazing. They're a generation of social responsibility. All they need is awareness.
And Joe, this is actually the first year that law will also emphasize that students can call if they think someone's been the victim of sexual assault and also needs help. So something for them to keep in mind as they get back on campus.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Veterans organizations try to overcome the stereotype that they aren't welcoming to young people. Ahead, how a VFW in Greenwood became one of the youngest posts in the state. And you've probably seen them. Thousands of college students are moving back to Bloomington. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
I can change the world with my own 2 hands, make it a better place with my own 2 hands. I'm gonna make it a brighter place with my own 2 hands. I'm gonna help the human race with my own 2 hands. I can hold you in my own 2 hands, and I can comfort you with my own 2 hands, with my own 2 hands.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Veteran service organizations across the country are facing a mounting problem. As their membership slowly dies off, few young veterans are getting involved. That means the organizations are finding themselves strapped for cash and struggling to remain relevant. As Barbara Brozier reports, VFW and American Legion posts across the state are trying to combat decades-old stereotypes to attract new members.
The walls of Greenwood VFW Post 5864 are often filled with music, but it's not always the roar of a band on a Friday night. Once a month, soothing sounds fill the post as veterans undergo healing touch energy therapy. For veterans like Britton Shellhorn, it provides much-needed mental and physical relief. But many people who've never stepped foot inside this post don't know it offers these services.
We've done anything from highway cleanup to doing rallies to support people that are either wounded in the community or veterans that have been wounded. I mean, every day it seems like we're helping somebody out.
That's a message VFW and American Legion posts across the state are trying to get out as they struggle to attract new, younger members. These aren't just organizations for your grandparents.
That's the perception that we've ran into a lot, is it's a lot of old white men drinking, smoking inside of a Legion post.
The VFW's roots date back to 1899, when veterans of the Spanish-American War started local groups to help fight for veteran benefits and rights. And the American Legion got its start in 1919, when World War I veterans came together and formed an organization dedicated to serving veterans and their communities. That remains the Legion's mission today, and it's one of the reasons Will Henry joined a post after serving in Afghanistan and Kuwait. He now works as the Assistant Department Adjutant for the American Legion Department of Indiana and is spearheading efforts to get younger veterans involved.
There's a lot of veterans over the last 14, 15 years that have been deploying steadily. The importance for those people to become members is they support an organization that supports them.
He spends a lot of time on his computer, reaching out to that population, using Facebook and Twitter, even paying for targeted ads on social media.
Really, the organization, when I came on board, was behind. They were probably 5 to 7 years behind where we needed to be as far as communication goes.
Posts across the state are struggling to adapt to new technologies and new generations of veterans, too. American Legion Post 18 in Bloomington is the largest in the state, but Iraq and Afghanistan veterans only make up about 3% of its membership.
Their involvement is tough to get because they're still, they're still building their lives after getting out of the military, working at jobs and raising families. And in today's world, mom and dad both have a job and their kids are so much more involved. And it's really hard to have the time until you're probably in your mid to late 50s.
The Post has made some changes over the years to attract more young members, shifting to focus more on its community involvement. Every Saturday, the Legion hosts a pancake benefit for different nonprofit groups in the area. Veterans spend all morning in the kitchen, cranking out hundreds of pancakes and about 60 pounds of bacon.
We do quite a bit for the community. This past year we did about, between the state and the community and everything, we donated $138,000 just to different charities.
But Post Commander Richard Dunbar admits being active in the community isn't necessarily enough to attract new members. He says something as simple as getting more modern bands to play on weekends could help appeal to more young veterans.
We can't be afraid to change a little. We've changed over the years. Our Legion's changed a lot from being the good old boys sitting around the bar and smoke-filled rooms and all that to being more open to our community.
Back at the VFW Post in Greenwood, there's been some success with recruiting younger veterans like Shellhorn, who previously served as the Post commander. When he joined, he says the Post was already in the process of evolving.
It's a non-smoking post, so I walked in and it was instantly like a family. It was people I could relate with. It didn't matter what age they are. I mean, it's a brother and a sister. We're all comrades.
But the biggest hurdle for the organizations may not be changing the atmosphere, but the attitudes of veterans who've been running the posts for decades.
National took a survey, and out of 250 Afghanistan and Iraqi veterans, the biggest thing is we don't greet them when they come into the door. That's the biggest thing. And it's just a thing we need to overcome.
The largest portion of members are from the Vietnam era, but the hope is that as Afghanistan and Iraq war veterans get older and settle down, more of them will join. And they'll have to, in order for the organizations to survive.
40% of our organization is 70 years and older. And that could be a big hit for us in the next 2 or 3 years.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Barbara Brozier.
The VFW says its membership has declined by about 500,000 people over the past 10 years. SUVs full of dorm fixings and families lined the streets earlier this week for Indiana University's move-in day. IU staff were there to greet freshmen, and for one family, it was an emotional but proud day.
I didn't think I packed as much as I did until I got here. And then I realized I had a lot of stuff. So I had to send some of that back.
We're really pleased to have over 7,800 freshmen coming to IU, and we have students from all 92 Indiana counties, so we're really pleased about the class.
I'm real excited. I'm so excited to live in this dorm because there's so many arts facilities that we have access to. We have call-ins.
I hate it. I mean, I just hate it. I don't want her to move away. That's all.
It's amazing because you look back at when you bring her from hospital and she's this little child and raise it, and now you're letting her go.
And that's the end of this program, but our work continues online at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following. Indiana University's Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, presenting Security Matters with tips for improving online security in 3 minutes or less. And by WTIU members. Thank you.